Canadian Highlander, Abzan, Nadu Bright Glass, Sans Red Nadu, etc., etc., etc. Deck tech. I'm here to talk about my list, my version of the list, some of my specific card choices, the success I've had with this list, and also a little history about how I got here and why my journey, because 2026 is actually the first year that I've started playing Canadian Highlander. It's not my first year with Canadian Highlander. I've been watching Canadian Highlander content for many years now, but 2026 was the year I decided to really go in and commit to playing. And I've been playing in monthly asyncs consistently since February. I've been playing in a bunch of the weeklies, but it was not as consistent at first at all. So I have less of those under my belt. And so let's talk about me getting into the format, like where I was coming at it from. So I was not, I've watched a lot of Canadian Highlander content, North 100 Showdown, LJT, MTG. These have become some of my favorite, loading runs, other stuff, bent wheelers, other stuff. Has become my favorite Magic content to watch in recent years. But primarily as a player for the past few years, I'm an arena player mostly. I've mostly played on Magic the Gathering Arena. A time came a few years, a number of years ago, where I was unsatisfied with the state of the official formats of Arena, and so I found Gladiator, gravitated towards Gladiator, and I started playing in the Gladiator organized play system, which I have greatly enjoyed. I came in before Modern Horizons 3, but certainly not that much earlier than it. So I don't have some of the attachments to really early Gladiator. Gladiator to me, like, it really came into what I like about it with MH3. I'll say I like powerful Magic. So let's talk about the Gladiator deck that I have sort of became my go-to in recent years, which is this 4-color, but mostly it's an Abzan deck, and kind of it's a green-white deck, with both blue and black being splashes. And you might notice a bunch of similar cards to that last list. And the big ones to me are the cards the deck's really built around are Nadu, Winged Wisdom, and also Bright Glass Gearhulk. And Bright Glass Gearhulk really became my favorite card to play last year in 2025. Primarily because the deck building ways this pushes your deck building, it's towards 1-drops and toolboxy stuff, I just found really compelling and fun to both, build decks around it and play. You get Ranger of Eos as like your second one. You get Ranger Captain of Eos. And one of the benefits of playing, the big benefit of playing blue is then you also get Mockingbird. You get to Bright Glass Gearhulk into a second Bright Glass Gearhulk, or Ranger of Captain of Eos gives you a second Ranger Captain of Eos to grab something else. And another big key of this was grabbing Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride. Mother of Runes also huge. You also got toolboxy stuff like Haywire Might, Deathray Shaman, and Static Prison is another huge one for this style of thing. Being able to grab a 1 mana removal spell, or being able to grab a Ghost Vacuum, that kind of stuff. And the other thing is that so that's sort of where I'm coming from. But why did I start playing Canadian Highlander? One, just wanting to expand the kind of Magic I'm playing. I really enjoyed playing in the Discord for Gladiator, the organized play system. That was based a lot on what was going on in the Canadian Highlander Discord also, so I wanted to just sort of move into that other, also share in that other space. I did not get sick of Gladiator, still love Gladiator. I just wanted to expand the amount of Magic I was playing, honestly. The kinds of Magic I was playing. So there are a few things here. So thinking about that move, what are like the differences between where Gladiator is currently and where Canadian Highlander is? Because a big thing is that within 2025, I would say I finally felt a transition where we got enough cards on Arena with stuff like Barrowgoyf and Opposition Agent coming to the client alongside, now we have Force of Will on Arena also, that the distance between Canadian Highlander decks and Gladiator decks was now like thin enough that you could take lessons from deck lists. Like the Rakdos deck in Canadian Highlander is very similar to the kind of Rakdos deck you can play in Arena. You don't have Moxen, but that's really the big difference. Like there are a couple like you don't have Headliner Scarlet, but it's a lot of similar cards. But the thing you don't have are the fast combo decks that Canadian Highlander has. Time Vault. You don't have Time Vault. You don't have Black Lotus. You don't have Lion's Eye Diamond. You don't have Flash and Protean Hulk. Those really, really souped up fast combo decks you don't have. Well, we have Scape Shift in Gladiator, and there's Tainted Pathos' Oracle combo can also happen. But that doesn't have the same level of consistency as those fast combo decks in Canlander currently have. So, what does that mean? That means Gladiator is much more of a board-based format. Like this deck that I built mostly was built to beat a meta where Abzan was the strongest, was like the dominant thing to be doing. And it was built to sort of, and it's really heavy on graveyard hate. Partially because you have this alchemy card that turns that into card advantage. But primarily, I did it before that card was even printed. It was just to stop people from being able to use their graveyard as their like an extra hand or whatever. Like all the value you get out of your graveyard, to cut them off so that they would have to play a more fair game, and then I can do a Nadu thing, an unfair Nadu thing over top of them. To sort of lower the level of playing field, but then also be cheesy. Is sort of the idea. And a lot of times when I look at Canadian Highlander lists and think about them in terms of Gladiator, those Canadian Highlander discs are way lighter on creatures. They're playing way more things that care about countering spells. And a lot of that starts with the card It's simple as like the card Duress. Duress is, you look at Canadian Highlander list, it's widely played. In Gladiator, it's mostly not good. Too many times the thing you want to hit is a creature. Now, can Duress be fine? Yes, but a little too often it's a whiff because a lot of the decks are so creature focused. And my secret theory is some of that in Canadian Highlander is just format memory. That modern creatures are so good. They're not less good. It's just, maybe Duress isn't as good in Canadian Highlander either. It's my, starting point. Not as bad. But maybe you whiff more often than maybe you should. And there's an advantage to playing decks where Duress whiffs or whatever. Like, obviously, that's not going to line up into some of the fast combo decks that are extremely spell heavy, but but there aren't mid-range decks that are spells focused that are having a lot of success or whatever. Like, even Jeskai has creature threats, which is a big thing to me of the difference here. It's like you're playing a lot of threats in the prominent blue deck. It's not a passive control deck. And the thing that this deck struggles against are board wipes. Passive blue decks can be more of a problem. So playing in a format where that's less of a thing, I'm noting it. That's a thing I'm noting. People aren't playing board wipes in Canadian Highlander as much as of the start of 2026. Noting. This deck seems like a deck similar to this seems like it could be good. The other things, and I'm starting with this list primarily because I just find playing Bright Glass Gearhulk extremely fun. I really like it. I think pairing it with Nadu means that I'm hitting the power threshold to win matches in a very powerful format, but the deck building around Bright Glass Gearhulk is like the primary source of fun for me or whatever. And there are a couple other points I just wanted to talk about the things I've heard Wheeler say about Canadian Highlander. Is the first one is that idea of a deck that's just playing creature threats, heavy creature threats. It feels like they won't let you get a breath because it's threat after threat after threat, and the way that threats are so good currently, you can kind of expend your opponent's removal by just continuously to play threats against them. That the kind of, all answers deck doesn't currently work because the threats are too good. So people are playing different stuff in my brain. The other one is that a great way to win games of Canadian Highlander is to just recur a Modern Horizon 3 threat over and over again. Because those cards are very strong, and if you just play it, your Ocelot Pride, and they kill it, and you get to play it again, that's really strong. That's also in my head. Both in terms of, I should do that, and in terms of, if graveyards are that important, my strategy of playing extra graveyard hate sounds like it'll translate. That seems viable. So let's go to what is this? Oh, this is stock. This is stock Bant, not Nadu. So if you look at the stock list, you look at a stock list, it's pretty similar to a lot of the stuff. Like, we've got Versatily Bill, Scythecat, Cub, but we've got better Nadu combo targets in Nomad's Encore. Sylvan Sea Fever is on a arena, actually. So it's really Nomads for the really clean answers. And your mana's a little better, so you can run things like Finale and Nature's Rhythm. Like, one of the reasons I'm not as big in these in Gladiator is because the board wipes are a bigger thing, and your mana dorks are a little more vulnerable. Also, you get Skull Clamp, which is an absurd card, and you get Shuko instead of having to run Lightning Greaves, which for 1 mana instead of 2 mana, even though it does less, but you just care about the mana at that point. The other thing that helped me get into it are the resources for Canadian Highlander, like Canlander decks. I watched the LGT Canlander Decks Invitational event or whatever. Like, the community was good at letting me know this thing existed, and this site's been super interesting looking at it and thinking about what decks I could play. And so, I started with looking at decks that are playing Bright Glass Gearhulk, and made me probably Nadu. And, I looked at Time Vault. Time Vault's not playing Guide of... The thing I wanted, if you're playing Bright Glass Gearhulk, you want to be playing Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride, frankly. To me, it's having that maneuver. And Time Vault looked a little crowded for the fun I wanted to be having. So I found I'm playing 4 colors. Here's a 4-color Nadu deck. And this write-up by Symbolman was very intriguing. Of talking about flat matchups, weak against combo, but you do get these black cards like Opposition Agent. Maybe you steal a game. So this was interesting, and I did... Is this the... Yes. So my first foray into playing any Canlander, I played against... I had a friend who wanted to jam some Canlander. So I just straight grabbed a list from Canlander decks of a 4-color Nadu, like the kind of thing I wanted to be doing. Play the deck without doing anything to it. It might not have been this exact list, but I think it was basically this list. Playing Duress, we're playing Unearth, we're playing Life Death, we're playing Natural Order Atraxa in this list. This list has White Plume Adventurer, another card that's not on Arena. Survival of the Fittest, which is on Arena. And I jammed this list, and jamming this list immediately, I was annoyed Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride were not in it. That was my first going like, I have to at least change this. So I made some adjustments. Things I decided I didn't want to play. Atraxa. I decided I didn't want to be running Natural Order Atraxa. I didn't want this 7-mana card in my deck that's not castable. I like the Bright Glass plan of getting my curve lower, just for consistencies. Natural Order Atraxa is very spiky, very powerful play, but I'm looking for consistently casting my cards regardless. Elvish Reclaimer, that's a little too cute for me. Not playing Elvish Reclaimer. This one actually, I'm not sure is correct. I did cut Endurance just because it's 3 mana. I have lost a game specifically because I didn't have Endurance in my deck, but that's a game where I'm already comboing off with Nadu, so I think I could have figured out a different way to not lose that game. Like the games where you're evoking this, it's not exactly where I want to be. I don't care. Like, I'm trying to win the grindy games where I want them to not have a graveyard. I'm actually less like hung up about I need to have this immediately on turn 1 so I don't die. I'm not that scared of those kind of reanimator decks currently. I cut Keen-Eyed Curator because it's double green. I just trying to keep the mana symbols easier. I'm playing different Graveyard Hate because also this deck, even though your curve is so low, I do often feel restricted on wanting to cast more spells. So leaving up the mana isn't always benefit. I prefer things like Agatha Soul Cauldron. That's you can time it correct when you need to time it, but it doesn't take a mana investment. I cut Knight of the Reliquary because it's a 3-drop that isn't like doing the exact thing. I'm playing 4 colors. I'm not going to rely on having a forest or plains necessarily. Cut, and also, just there are cards I want to fit in. I can't play everything. I also cut White Plume Adventure. White Plume Adventure seems like it was a big, obvious point include in a lot of these decks. I'm thinking about grindy creature games that maybe the red player is going to go under me, and maybe the initiative's actually a bad thing. Maybe my combo deck isn't playing the strongest creatures to maintain the initiative. Maybe that's not where my deck wants to be for a point. I thought about that. I had other pointed cards I was a little bit more interested in. So I'm not playing White Plume Adventure. And I've definitely had games where it's like, I'm happy to not be the one to introduce the initiative. The non-creature games where it would be really nice to have are the games, again, the games against combo decks that are just going to kill me on turn 2 anyway. So White Plume Adventure is not going to help me there. Yeah. Again, Duress. Cutting Duress because we're looking to beat other mid-range decks primarily. That's our prey. That's who we're looking to beat up on. The fast combo decks that Duress would also be good on. We're still playing Thoughtseize and Inquisition, but I cut Duress. And I cut Unearth and Life Death because I don't want to be weak to Graveyard Hate in that same way. I don't want a double of these cards. Now I will get back to what I put in instead. Because I am kind of just making an upgrade on this slot. In Natural Order, I'm also not playing. If they have an answer for this, it kind of blows you out. You're playing a 4 mana card and a 5 and a 7 mana card in a deck that I'm trying to keep the curve low. Spending my point elsewhere. I'm not playing Summoner's Pact. Summoner's Pact, get out of here. Pre-War Formalware, also. I'm not going as heavy on the graveyard thing because again, one of the decisions I made with my Gladiator deck was I'm playing the Abzan. I'm basically cutting all but just the best of the graveyard recursion stuff. So I have 2 cards that are graveyard recursion stuff, but I'm getting rid of Pre-War Formaware and Unearth and Life Death. Now, I will say about Pre-War Formaware is part of the other thing is it is nice to have another target for your Cloud and your Stoneforge. But you really don't need another one beyond Skullclamp and Shuko. Like if I'm ready to combo, I can grab Shuko. If I'm not ready to combo, I'm grabbing Skullclamp. Like those two are so clearly the things I'm going to my starting point that I was willing to cut the third one and a 3 mana card. Come on. I'm looking at 1s and 2s here mostly, unless it's Nadu or Opposition Agent. Kind of the thinking. And I cut Survival of the Fittest also. I need to get one creature. I don't need to get like a chain of the correct creatures, really. So I just felt like there were better creature tutor options for me. So let's look at my deck and see where I wound up. Now I will say that let's start out with a thing that happened during this year that changed, which is that the One Ring got pointed, and I run the One Ring in my deck. So I actually did get hit with a point pretty, earlier in the year. It has not slowed me down. I'll say that. This card was worth a point, and it was worth a point to keep playing it. The thing I was playing in that point spot was I was like, Modern Horizons 3 cards, baby. Let's play a cheeky Psychic Frog. And even when I was playing Psychic Frog, I was like, this isn't the best Psychic Frog deck. But this card's so good, I'd rather play 2 mana Psychic Frog than 3 mana White Plume Adventurer. But once the One Ring got a point, it was pretty clear. It was pretty easy for me to go, okay, the Psychic Frog was not exactly worth a point in my deck specifically. We can replace that. But my other points, I didn't really go over the lands either. But my other big point is Reanimate. I'm gonna switch the print names. So putting a point, Reanimate is banned in Gladiator, I'll say. This card is absurd. And the reason I really like it over any of the reanimation options in the stock build of the deck, I'll just say, Symbalman's list, is that it can target a thing in your opponent's graveyard too. So it's technically also a form of graveyard hate. That's the big thing. Like, I think I would play, like, if I didn't have the point to kind of throw away on Reanimate, I'd probably play like Animate Dead or something. I would play another reanimation spell that could target my opponent's graveyard. It's just a place where my head is at for what overplaying death. That's where I'm at with that kind of thing. And I'm also on the Ooze because, it's not as good as Agatha Soul Cauldron, but this card's nuts. Like, this card is fine. Like, this is still a very powerful card. It's just not as good as like the completely cracked version. And again, I'm going heavy on Graveyard Hate, so I'm playing Ghost Vacuum, Cauldron, and the Ooze. You know, you could play a. I'm playing the Ooze instead of playing a Scavenging Ooze or whatever. Again, because then I don't have to make a more mana investment, and these mutagen tokens are things that target creatures and, you know, trigger Nadus. So it's more in line with, you know, bolstering up my synergies. And then my other reanimation target that I'm on, instead of playing on an Earth, I'm on Chthonian Nightmare. Because this card, it's just absurd. You know, if you want to talk about playing a Modern Horizons 3 card over and over and over again, here we go. You Chthonian Nightmare, your Orcish Bowmasters into lots of fun stuff. The energy synergies with having Guide of Souls and Static Prison in your deck, just good stuff. Fun lines. This is just Eladamri's Call, in case you didn't recognize it. Yeah. Fun stuff. So yeah, not like huge changes. And then also we've got Birthing Ritual, because this is another card that's actually just absurd. Only 2 mana investment, and you're looking at upgrading one of your creatures every turn. Maybe you don't hit something, but you know, this is a crazy good engine. And really but that's not really the straight survival of the fittest replacement. Really the straight survival of the fittest replacement is Formidable Speaker, because for 3 mana this gives you the effect, but this lets you discard any card and get a creature. And then it has this untap ability that's also triggers Nadu. Like that, this one is actually the strict upgrade for this deck. Birthing Ritual is more like a value engine card instead of playing like Summoner's Pact or something. Is really more the way to think about it. And yeah, let's go over the lands a bit. I don't remember what's in the stock lands. So what do we got here? Field of the Dead. That's great. You really want Field of the Dead, because when you're not doing off, this like gets you to the point where it's you get to keep going forever. Gaia's Cradle, I'm on. Caracas, I'm on. I'm not on Swamp. I'm only on Forest and Plains, because I do primarily think of my deck as green-white. The black is more of a splash. I'm very cognizant of this card being a real pain to cast on curve, particularly when what you often want to grab off it is white. So I don't want it also Swamp. Forest, Plains, kind of weak to Blood Moon. We live with it. Talon Gates is in my deck. This card, absurd. This card is so good. You know, when someone goes to board wipe you and you have a White of the Reliquary out and you get to Talon Gates to save it, they lose. they lose the game. You win. If they don't think about Talon Gates when they play an answer, it gets them. Shifting Woodland, I am not currently on. You could make an argument for it, but you know, it's certainly strong. But again, it's a card that's like makes you weaker to graveyard hate, but is extremely powerful. Uh, our mana is pretty iffy, so having it come into play untapped, maybe not always guaranteed. This is one it's worth considering, though not currently in my list, I would say. It's definitely on the power level side, worth including. Urza Saga, obviously, I'm spending a point on Urza Saga. He gets Shuko, gets Mox, and gets Skull Clamp. Like, this card is for the deck. Having stuff like Cradle and Urza Saga is why you get to play. Crop rotation is just good in this deck, even though you're not really a lands deck. And Wasteland, I originally was not on Wasteland. I cut it because I was like, I just want to be able to cast my spells. I don't want another colorless land. I'm already. I feel like I'm pushing it with Field of the Dead and Urza Saga, or whatever. The thing is, Tolarian Academy is too fucking good, and I needed an answer for it. So, Wasteland went back in. It's really just because of Tolarian Academy. And sometimes you need to kill the Tolarian Academy because those decks will just... There are, mid-rangey Tolarian Academy decks that will just fucking end you. So I'm back on Wasteland. This is Caracas. I'm playing... This deck was also not on Surveil lands. Criminal Act, in my opinion. I want to be on all the Surveil lands. Surveil lands are so good. They give you so much card selection. They turn all your fetches into card selection, or they are mana. Incredible. I'm not playing Swamp because I'm playing Bojuka Bog. Crop rotation for Bojuka Bog can win you the game. That's it's really good to have in your deck. I'm also on Beseiju Who Endures. This card's just crazy. I'm not on Yavimaya because I didn't feel like I had the space. But I am on 37 lands. I am on a greater number of lands. Partly because, I'm looking at some of these lands like they're spells. Bojuka Bog, that's not really a land. That's a spell. Wasteland's a spell. I want to be able to cast things. So we're a little high. We're high on the land count, which, actually gives me more hands that are keepable. It feels like. And that's all the changes I made. Now let's talk about how I've been doing. So one of my goals was to get onto Canlander decks, to get into the Canadian Highlander Winners Archive. Hey, it's me. To do things like have my point spread show up here. To get a pet card onto this page. To get into the Canadian Highlander Winners Archive. I've done that. There we go. Bam. I've done that multiple times. My first event in February, I played in the Cockatrice Async and made it out of pools into top 8 and lost in the finals. In March, I played in the Async and lost tiebreak. I think tiebreakers to pools. I will say after March, there was a format change where in February and in March, in your pool only the pools were smaller. Everyone's divided up into 8 pools and only one person made it out of every pool. From April forward, it's been larger pools, but only 4 of them, and 2 people make it out of each pool into top 8. And that's felt really good to me. I was after in February and March, I was pretty unsure about. It felt really hard to make it into top 8 because it came down so much to tiebreakers. Like your game winning percentage felt like it mattered so much more than like just winning matches. And the change of it's 2 people out of every pool, your game win percentage still matters, but it's really more about winning your games. I feel like it's not just everyone going 3-1 and then who had the best tiebreakers or whatever, the most 2-0 wins. But look, I played again in April. Made it through pools, made it to top 8, lost in the finals. May, made it through pools, made it to top 8, lost in the finals. So winning my top 8 match, winning my top 4 match, losing the final match. And I'm happy to report that it's not up on the Winner's Archive yet, but in June I did also make it through pools, make it to the top 8, and then lose in the finals. Once again. And for July, it's looking good. I'm currently 3-0. I have one more match to play for my pools match. Also, a couple weeks ago, I spiked my first weekly. I 3-0'd a weekly. That is also not currently represented in the Winner's Archive, but eventually it should be. So I've also spiked weekly. I've gotten a lot of 2-1s in weeklies. But yeah, I'm having success with this deck, and it's really this deck. I'm being currently in the format. I'm being a 1-deck specialist because I'm trying to learn matchups. Like a lot of my losses, I would say, have come from playing fast combo decks that I didn't. I would say a lot of my losses, I would say, were user error and lack of knowledge about what really mattered and what I needed to play around and what I needed to answer. And the format's so diverse and primarily so mid-range focused, just because that's what people like playing, that when you come across one of these fast combo decks, like a big part of the thing is just you haven't necessarily played a lot against it or whatever. There's so many different kinds of really strong combo decks. Knowing the correct lines to play against them can be tough, particularly when you're new to the format like me. So it's still been a lot of learning on that end. Also, getting balanced on turn 2 to where I discard my whole hand and sack all my creatures. Also a game where, the other games that I've lost are games where I lost on, turn 2 or whatever, turn 3. I sort of before the normal curve of, like, I would say, of a game. Which, makes me convinced that, even though I'm not, I'm having a lot of success. Maybe not playing the best deck in the format, if those things are possible to do. The fast combo decks certainly seem like the strongest things, although I haven't played them enough to see the consistency out of them, and certainly no one else seems to. I'm also, I would report, the points leader for the Cockatrice Asyncs. Without, even though I haven't won an event, because I've gotten second place so many times, I have more points than all the other people who have, spiked one event, but then not made it to top 8 again or whatever. So there's certainly, an argument for this deck's flat matchup spread and consistency, is what I'm saying. But also, it's just a lot of fun. There are a lot of cool lines you get to play with this deck. A lot of fun crop rotation lines. A lot of positions where you have the agency and you need to make a correct tutor decision or whatever. White of the Reliquary, another, gives you interesting stuff, but it's not always completely straightforward what you should be grabbing, though a lot of times it's like, just grab Nadu, and then if they answer that, you'll figure out something later. Yeah, sometimes you lose on turn 2 also, but, it's magic, baby. Yeah. Strong deck. And I will say, primarily, I am feasting on mid-range decks. My matchup against mid-range decks, winning percentage is very high. I feel very favored into normal mid-range matchups. It's just, my deck feels really well positioned against those decks. Running them out of, there aren't decks, there aren't blue decks where I'm often, they're counterspelling everything, and board wipe. Like, I'm not getting board wiped unless it's, turn 2 balance or whatever. It's just not entirely true. There's that new one that also hits artifacts and you pay life. It's like Toxic Deluge Plus or whatever. Someone played that against me, and that was good. So if you want to beat this deck, there are the old ways of board wipes is effective. Like, this is still just creature combo. You can just play cards that answer creatures. But based on what people are playing and where the format is, this has been extremely strong deck. Really, really feels like the strongest mid-rangey thing you can be doing, because you're also have this combo out where you do just get to kill people. Or sometimes you just, play a Scythecat Cub on turn 2 or 3 and smash their face. Like, your deck can have a lot of different character to it, despite being really heavily creature focused. But I think that's enough yapping. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you, if you're still listening to this and you didn't enjoy me listening to me yap about this, I don't know what to tell you. But I hope this was informative for people, or interesting, or whatever. Thanks for listening. Play Canadian Highlander. It's fun. Peace.